He was born in the southern Syrian city of Dara, close to the Jordanian border, in 1988. Now, 30-year-old Samer Al-Jbawi calls Ottawa home. The birthplace of the Syrian Revolution, Dara saw massive peaceful protests starting in 2011 to demand democracy, and the Assad regime's crackdown led to a war that continues to this day.
We're a very well-connected community. In my city, everyone knows the another.
Yeah.
Neighbors, friends, relatives. And most of the families in my city, they have a big family. For example, my family, we are 11 members in the family.
Wow.
Father, mother, 5 sisters, and 4 brothers. So all of us, we used to sit on the same dining table, enjoying food and drinking coffee and all this stuff.
You studied English and English literature in university.
Yes.
Fascinating choice. How did you come to that decision to study English literature?
I liked English since I was a child. And the one who supported me and who encouraged me to continue my education in English, and specifically English literature, was my dad. He used to tell me that English is the global language. Try to learn it. You don't know where you will end up. So I took his advice into my consideration and I said, okay, I'll study English literature.
What was it like when you came out of university?
When I graduated, it was in 2010. At that time, there weren't many problems in the country. Everything was peaceful and everything was good. But all of a sudden, everything changed in 2011. When the Syrian Revolution started, it started peacefully, and they call it a civil war, but I don't call it a civil war. I call it a Syrian Revolution, where people asked for their own rights for 9 months without using any weapons, just holding the branches of olive trees. And when the Syrian regime started bombing and killing and shooting innocent people, there, at this point, all of our lives changed.
In 2011, Al-Jbawi got married after a 9-month courtship, but it was a subdued wedding. Many of their friends and neighbors had been killed in attacks by the Syrian central government.
Now, you would have set up your own household once you were married, I guess?
Yes.
It must have been difficult to do that with the violence all happening.
It was so difficult. You cannot travel from one place to another, because if you want to buy some stuff to your house, it's not always available in a small city where you have to go to the big cities. You have to cross many roads, streets, where there are many the checkpoints for the regime soldiers, and they used to treat us in a very, very bad way. Just like animals. This is how they used to treat us, honestly. The Syrian regime knew at that time that, and he still knows that, the place from which the Syrian Revolution started is Dara province. So it wasn't that much separated all over Syria, so they wanted to discipline the civilians by treating them this way. They believe that the more we are aggressive towards the civilians, the more submission that we will have from them. So they believe that if we kept dealing with civilians this way, then they will be so afraid, and they will get rid of this revolution and they will not continue it. But the problem that their acts against us increased the Syrian revolution, spread it all over Syria.
Were you ever beaten yourself?
Sorry?
Were you ever beaten yourself at a checkpoint?
Yes.
Really?
I was arrested as well.
And what happened?
I was arrested just because I shared in the demonstration in Syria, the peaceful demonstration. We wrote some signs. I used to write some signs in English. So many friends, they like to translate the signs that we have, just to show the world that we are peaceful demonstrators against this regime. And we have some rights that we want from this regime. And when they knew about me, they started investigating and they arrested me. The way they arrest is so bad. They crash the house. They come and take you from your own house without even having a permission to enter your house. They take you to the prison where they start investigating. Of course, it's not a professionalist. They're investigating. Before they asking you any questions, they start beating you to make you feel that this place, even if you haven't done anything, you have to say that you did.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get out of prison, obviously, you're released.
I was released because of one of our friends my father knew. He used to know some people in the regime. So he talked to them and he told them that this guy is a student at the university, he's a well-educated guy. And the answer was that this is whom we are afraid of. Those educated people that we are afraid of. So we want to stop them. They are trying to reflect what the reality in Syria, and we don't want to reflect it to the outside world. But with paying bribes and other stuff to the soldiers who arrested us, they released me. But I kept wanted in Syria.
Oh, really?
They kept looking behind for me.
Now, you've started your married life. You start your family. You have a daughter. You're living in a house. And I guess it was 2013, was it?
Yes.
When the violence really comes home and a warplane bomb falls on your house. Was that the last straw for you, as we say in English? Was that, I think the expression is, was that the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak?
It is. It is the straw that broke the camel's back. Because at that point, all of my relatives, all of my family members, my dad, my mom, my brothers, all of them left the country. So I was there only with my wife and my daughter at that time. When the bomb hit my house and I saw how my wife and my daughter were so scared and dust all over their body, I said, okay, now it's time to leave.
Was it a difficult decision for you to leave?
It's a very difficult decision because I cannot cross the border legally. So not only that, you're leaving your own city, your own memories, your neighbors, friends, and it was difficult for me to leave the place that I lived in because I don't know what's behind the border, what I will find there. Then I took the decision. I said, okay, either I have two options, either to die or to flee from the inferno of death.
After spending 2 years in neighboring Jordan, Al-Jbawi and his family were accepted by Canada. They arrived in December of 2015. Al-Jbawi says despite the fact the rest of his family is scattered in 6 other countries, Canada was his first choice as a new home.
Before I come here, I educated myself. I tried to understand what country is that I'm going to live in. And I figured out, wow, this is perfect. I like it. It is my choice. I prefer it. If you want to compare the other countries to Canada, then you will find many similarities and many differences. But other countries, they have their own problems, and I don't want to end up in problems again. I'm fleeing from problems. I don't want to have any problems again. So that's why I selected Canada.
His command of English made integrating into Canadian life a lot easier for Al-Jbawi than for most of his other fellow Syrian refugees, and he realized that, so he began volunteering to help other arrivals. Then he took a job at the Somali Center for Family Services as a settlement counselor, and his door is always open.
I like it because I'm helping my own people, the Syrian fellows. I understand their culture. They understand my culture. We're both from the same culture. So that helped them a lot. Each time they want something, they don't have to worry about their language, or they don't have to worry about culture, they don't have to worry about appointments and long time waiting and all this stuff. Each time they need anything to be done, they come directly to our office here, to our center, and we help them right away. It's not like the other settlement agencies. I accept my stuff as walk-in. Yeah, so each time they need anything, they come directly to our office and they receive their service, if we're not busy doing other stuff.
As might be expected, language is a major obstacle to integration for Syrian refugees, and Al-Jbawi would like to see more intensive training for them so they can go out in public more quickly.
Language was the biggest challenge. So most of them, they find it so difficult to learn. For kids, no, at all. In a few months, they speak fluent English with the Canadian accent. Even my daughter, Hala, she speaks English and she mocks my language. She says, "Oh, this is not how they say it. You should say it this way." She doesn't like my accent. So for kids, yeah, they learn so fast. But for adults, because they have many problems and many issues back home, the psychological issues, so they need a long time to learn language. And also, to be honest, the LINK program is so slow. It's very slow. If they want people to learn English, it shouldn't be only 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours maximum in a day. It should be more than that.
Another big issue for refugees, the fear of making a cultural mistake, something he tries to help his clients overcome.
There's a big difference or a big gap between Canadian culture and my culture. Mm-hmm. So they found that if I did something, they might consider it wrong. And really, it might consider wrong in the Canadian culture, but it's right in his culture, and vice versa. What might be considered right in the Canadian culture, it might be considered wrong in my culture. So it was a big shock for them. So most of them, they try to keep them away, to keep themselves away, just in order not to be misunderstood or to avoid misunderstandings.
That must be very difficult to have you try and overcome. I guess it's just a process of education?
It is. It is the process of education. And what I was expecting, honestly, that those newcomers, when they arrive to Canada, there should be some orientation, information, education to them, to inform them about the Canadian society, the Canadian culture, just to let them understand the Canadian culture in order not to be misunderstood or to have these misunderstandings.
Al-Jbawi is optimistic the situation will improve in his homeland. Interestingly, he's confident that things will change for the better so he and his family can visit his home city.
Of course, Syria is my first home, but Canada is my second home as well. This place gave me a new life, a new opportunity, a new future for me and my wife and my children. So I will always carry that in my mind. The way Canada treated me is in a very kind way. And in my culture, when someone treats you in a kind way, you have always and forever to treat them in a very kind way.